Then there was trouble. Emily pulled so hard that the coupling broke. The apple cart tumbled off the tracks. Apples bounced and rolled everywhere. Percy was cross.
Out of my way, Emily!
But Emily didn't chuff out of the way. James had to screech into a siding. His wheels whirred, and he bumped into the buffers. Luckily, no one was hurt. Toby huffed hard backwards out of the Whistling Woods, straight into the two freight cars James and Thomas had shunted. So, Toby huffed his hardest out of the Whistling Woods, straight into the four freight cars James and Thomas had shunted. Toby's boiler bubbled and his wheels wobbled. He pumped his pistons and raced back out of the woods, straight into the six freight cars Thomas and James had shunted. Toby felt terrible. Henry was huffing happily. He clickety-clacked around a bend, straight into an old freight car.
Flatten my funnel. Who left that there?
Isn't this the funniest noise you've heard?
A popping cork hit Mr. Bubbles. It knocked his big red nose off. But Thomas didn't know he'd knocked off Mr. Bubbles' red nose.
Isn't this the funniest noise you've heard?
Popping corks hit the bakers and the cakes. All the cakes were spoiled. Then there was trouble. The popping corks hit the signalman. He was so surprised, he pulled the wrong lever. The tracks changed. James was sent into a siding. James bumped the buffers. Luckily, no one was hurt.
Sorry, boss. The slip of the hook. Sorry, boss. Slip of the hook.
What about my blocked valves?
Then there was trouble. Black smoke and soot shot from Gordon's valves all over Sir Topham Hatt, who had just arrived in his bright blue car.
Heaving hooks. Was that meant to happen, boss?
Yes, you are, my friend.
Then there was trouble. Percy shoved, Mavis shunted, and Thomas shouted.
1, 2, 3, push!
The coal cars bashed and biffed together. They juddered and jumped. Coal dust scattered and splattered everywhere. It covered the railroad inspector and Sir Topham Hatt.
Oh!
Gordon swerved and swayed into a siding. He bashed the buffers and toppled off the tracks. At last, Thomas screeched to a stop. The Star of Knapford flew high into the sky. It floated and flickered right over James and Henry and Percy. Then crashed with a crunch and a crack onto the track in front of Thomas. Suddenly, old Wheezy grabbed and groaned and whirled and hurled logs everywhere. Logs bounced off Edward
Blistering boilers!
and flew past Thomas.
Cinders and ashes!
Thomas huffed to Hee-Haw,
I know Hee-Haw will help us.
but Hee-Haw had run out of oil. It spluttered and stuttered, thick black smoke all over James and Sir Topham Hatt.
Welcome to the Merry Misty Island Party.
That's right.
Then there was trouble. Old Wheezy and Hee-Haw started to cough and to splutter. Then they jittered and juddered. Baubles and bells bounced and bumped. Streamers and stars shuddered and shook. Then, old Wheezy rocked and rolled, and the Joby Log Christmas tree flew high in the sky and splashed into the pond.